Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Leftovers Season 2, Episode 9. It's called 1013. Full spoilers for the episode as always. So, said last review, we had no idea where this was going. Although we did expect some Meg and Tom stuff, because we were kind of due it. So we did get that. Certainly though, this one painted us into like, okay, this is where the end game of the season is going now, and that said, there was some swerves along the way. This did a really good job of the entire episode making you think, oh, we've got explosives and there's going to be like a terrorist attack. Well, you know, the GR, or at least Meg's group of the GR, are becoming extremists, they're becoming terrorists, and they're so a lot of stuff came up, and then obviously there's the big shock reveal ending, which I'll admit was surprising. I was not expecting what I saw when the door was opened.
Me either, but I love it.
I don't get me wrong, I was sure it wasn't just going to be bombs, because that was too set up. It was too set up.
It was too easy. It's like there's got to be something more to this.
Yeah, even though it would have made sense. Like, oh, they're going to put the trailer in, and
that would have still been a big moment.
Yeah, but I'm like, no, there's something else in that trailer, and I was not expecting what was there when the door opened. And fair play to them. So let's go back to the start of the episode. We started with a flashback. Now, the one person we didn't see, and I like that we started on a flashback in episode 9, because episode 9 was the flashback episode in season 1. So it was a weird kind of a rhyme to the fact that we got this.
I'm a little upset that can't happen in season 3, with it only being 8 episodes long.
That's true, it's impossible. Yeah, they could do it in 7, because it's the one before the finale.
Yeah, but it's not the same, is it?
Yeah. But the one person we didn't see in the flashback episode last year, or last season, I say that as if we were watching it a year ago, was Meg, because she wasn't sort of around to the same extent. So we get her, and they sort of like, at first you're not sure if this is present day or not, because, you know, she's just kind of in the bathroom. She's not wearing the white, but we've seen that she's already acting kind of different. Like, she talks a lot for someone who's still in the GR. Like, she's kind of like testing the boundaries of what they can do, and you know, like, we see that throughout the episode. But she is in the bathroom. We see that she's on cocaine. I mean, it doesn't show you the exact sort of, you know, she just sort of comes up into frame and she's sort of sniffing. But then you see it in the next scene later where she's properly snorting it.
I love how you get it though from the song, like that first time, because it's white lines.
And she comes back out into this you know, nice restaurant, and she's with her mother, and they're talking, and they're like, oh, I owe you. She wants to pay for her wedding, and that's what tells us, okay, it's the past, because we're talking about her getting married. And it's like, wait a minute, when exactly are we in the past? And she's like,
there's a suspicion, like, is this the day?
Yeah, but no, they swerve you, because like, oh, I owe you money for those boots. I want to pay you back. Oh, what's the date today? And I'm like, oh, I don't.
There we go.
Yeah, it's like, it's the 13th, and I'm like, wait a minute. 13th. I see what you did there. And she's like, oh no, don't date it for today, date it for tomorrow, because 13's unlucky. And I'm like, very good.
Yeah.
But I love this opening flashback, because it swerved it in a very fascinating way for me, because she comes back, she goes to the bathroom again, because she's got a cocaine addiction problem. She goes to the bathroom, she snorts some more cocaine, she comes back, and her mother was about to tell her something. She's like, oh, don't let me forget, I had something important to tell you. And she comes back, and her mother, you know, it does that thing where all the sound drowns out and everything goes out of slow motion, and it's just her like watching, and it's her mother on the floor trying to be resuscitated. She's dying, her mother dies. And what I like about this swerve is, because we start this flashback going, oh, it's going to build up to how probably her mother disappears on the 14th, like with, you know, it's happened with everyone else. But it swerves us because she doesn't. She just dies the day before. And I like that a lot, because I think it's interesting from a character perspective, because characters even bring it up later in the episode, but the idea that she had something awful happen to her, and then a day later no one gave a shit because something bigger happened.
Do you know what I love is, like, we kind of knew about this, as you know, when she runs into, you know, Matt a little bit later. Yeah, Matt mentions that, you know, last year he had those flyers, and, you know, he was saying this, and I was like, oh yeah, we did know this information, yet we're just so into the scene at the start that you don't even think about it.
But how much did we know though? Did we know she died the day before? I don't think we knew that.
We must have known she died close. I remember, you know, him saying, you know, her grief was hijacked. I remember that phrase.
Right, yeah, that's fair. Although we never actually find out what was on the leaflet though, did we? Because I remember it's like we were trying to look for it at the time and we couldn't quite make out what it was saying on the leaflet, and we still don't know. I mean, you imagine it may have had something to do with what she was going to tell her, perhaps?
Quite possibly.
It makes sense. We still don't know because they withhold it from us, the bastards.
Mm.
I imagine if it's important, it'll come up. I would imagine so. And probably in a highly emotional moment where she screams it out because she can't hold it in anymore. It's likely when I expect it. But it's actually... I remember hearing an idea once for a movie about someone whose entire family gets killed on the morning of 9/11, and it was going to explore the idea that like their grief is hijacked, as Matt put it, because this other big thing happened, and no one was like, okay, it's awful what happened to you, but everyone kind of cares about this other thing.
Yeah, there was this much worse disaster.
Yeah. And how do you deal with that? Because it's no one's fault. It's no one's fault that they care more about the other thing, because they're all sharing in the same grief. Like, they're united almost by it.
Yeah.
And
of course, you have the more personal connection to your tragedy, so it's more important to you.
So you almost resent the tragedy, the widespread tragedy. You almost resent that for hijacking and taking away from your pain, and no one cares the same way. And it's because when she goes to obviously Miracle, she goes to Jordan, Texas, and I like that this was set like a year before the start of the show, because I'm like, oh yeah, we've never really had anything in that time frame, really. Like, everything's all been... We've seen the time of the actual departure.
Yeah, the 3 years ago from the start of the show.
Right, and we've seen it from the start of the show, but we've never really had time in between then. It was really interesting to see, okay, this is Meg halfway through, give or take, that time, that chunk of time, and like before she got to the same extent she was at the start of the show, and the journey towards that, and it's like, oh, she came to Jordan, she came with her, then fiancé, and they toured, and they see, the women in the wedding dress, and and she goes to the psychic who we met in the first episode of the season, before he'd been kicked out, the one with the fingerprint, the handprint painting.
Yes.
Which he brings up and says, no, you don't need to do that because you don't want to see their future. You're here for something else.
It just dawned on me in that image there. Like, obviously, Kevin, his whole thing is that, the handprint on the car. Mm. I wonder if that's going to come up with him in relation to that.
Or you think we'll see this guy again and he'll see the handprint?
Quite possibly.
Yeah, I could see that. Even if it doesn't do that, definitely thematically, the whole idea that the handprints in his future, it's going to come back to haunt him. I think there's definitely a link there with that. Absolutely. So she comes to Jordan. I was really into this, and obviously I'm thinking, okay, who's she going to run into? She's going to run into someone we know. There's no way it doesn't happen. But she goes to this psychic first, who she intends to see. And we find out she's been going to other psychics. She wants to know what her mother was going to tell her. That's what she's obsessed about. That's what she really needs to know. And she thinks she's full of shit because he tries to talk her out of getting the information.
He's like, whatever I tell you, you're going to be disappointed because it's not what you've built it up to be in your head. Yeah,
because she didn't know she was going to die, so it's just like she was going to tell you something.
It wasn't important last words. It was just dinner conversation.
Exactly. But she's like, that's bullshit. It's like, I don't believe a word you're saying. You're just a fraud. And then he proves he's not, because he brings up something from that scene. She mentioned that she sent the food back because it had walnuts in it.
Yeah.
Also, and he brings that up.
I thought it was very interesting that he did that, because that's one of those. We've talked about how this show's played it really vague with how accurate these psychics are.
Yeah,
how
that's
real
not vague.
It is.
That's
very specific. And the stuff we've been talking about how the stuff that Patty said to Kevin, we can kind of write it off because of maybe Laurie's just mentioned something. It's in his subconscious somewhere.
Yeah.
But this is too specific to be false, surely.
Well, it isn't. I mean, I think it's intentionally getting more specific so that maybe we're doubting, or we're not doubting, but we're starting to believe more than ever that some of this is real. That some people actually have abilities, but
how else do you explain that? Because there's no prompting for it in the scene. She's just like, no, you're full of bullshit. And he goes, walnuts.
I don't think just because we can't explain it doesn't mean there isn't some sort of explanation.
Okay.
Because that's the thing with these people who actually claim they're psychics, and they have all these tricks to try and get parts of information out of you so that it looks like they can just know something.
And that's why I was watching for that specifically, but she doesn't say anything that hints at it.
Oh, yeah, not in this scene. Did she speak to him on the phone before now?
Oh, okay, that's fair.
We have no idea, if they've even spoke to each other before this scene. It's never really established. So as much as, it does feel more real than ever, I'm not ready to say, it definitely is real. There's no way it's It's there's still the margin of no. There could be an explanation. There could be.
All right.
So the scene ends in a cock tease because it ends on her saying, "Yeah, I want to know. Tell me." And it cuts to her walking back, and she says to her fiance, "Oh, yeah, he's a fraud," and she smiles as if everything's okay. But this, as we go through this sort of section of the episode, she's sitting on her own, she's crying, she's like smelling her mother's or cardigan or whatever it is, and she's and this of course is when we run into Evie.
Yes.
And Evie is here, and it's like, oh man, okay, right, interesting. It's interesting that she interacted with her.
Yeah, again, we talk about the idea that maybe Nora was that. What was the word he used? Like the lightning rods, I think.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, well, maybe it was, Meg was involved in the guilty realm, and it's like, well, what was different about her that maybe led to something?
Yeah, maybe. Although, at least, as far as we know, I mean, did Meg lose anyone on the departure?
No, but the idea that she was so fixated on it because of when she joined the GR, like, that's where her mindset was.
Well, so you were thinking, like, her just meeting her maybe triggered something.
Yeah, maybe. I was thinking maybe down the line it was like a delayed effect or something.
I don't know if I was going down those lines, but I was thinking, okay, right. I was thinking maybe a seed was planted of something, and seemingly it kind of was. But we'll
yeah.
And but the interesting part of the conversation, she tries to like comfort her, Meg, because Meg's upset, she's crying, and she offers her carrots because you can't cry when you're eating baby carrots, apparently. I've never heard of this before myself, but
seems legit.
But basically, what I took away from the scene more than anything was she says to her, "I'm sorry you didn't find what you were looking for here. No one does." And it's like, okay, so she's not necessarily, almost like her father to an extent.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Okay, she's kind of bought into her dad's rhetoric.
To a point. Obviously, when we get to the end of the episode, I think she's went on obviously a different path with the same kind of base ideas.
Right. But it was very clear, like his ideology had kind of gotten to her.
But then I wonder though, is it him rubbing off, or is it more what she sees on her own? Like, is it her own kind of like experiences? Because she sees stuff every day. She sees kids at school. She's forced to sing these choir songs about how great the town is and how we're all perfect and safe because we were spared on the 14th and so on. But you kind of see this kind of cynical side to her in this scene where she's like, yeah, I see people come here like all the time, like every day people come and they always leave looking like this. Or maybe not everyone, maybe some people are just tourists and they just, they're still happy because they've been, but the idea that she's never really seen anyone actually be fixed by coming here or feel fulfilled by what they were expecting to find. And so I think her own cynicism plays a part in there. And so she gets back in the bus. Oh, of course, before she does, she turns around and looks around and spits in the ground. And it's almost this act of anger, this act of, well, screw you for not giving me what I wanted. Screw you for not actually being real. Which I think is almost the seed itself of like her entire character in a lot of ways. Like in what she's like now and joining up with the GR and her attitude in the GR and her more extreme views that seem to have developed over the past year.
She's angry that she hasn't got answers.
Yeah.
I love the camera work here as well. She gets on the bus, but we stay outside and follow her up along the outside of the bus.
Yeah, and then it does a neat little trick to transition us into present day, which you don't realise at first. You think you're just kind of on the same bus to a point, because you're inside the bus just looking out, and then the bus stops and there's Guilty Remnant, and I thought, that's weird, Guilty Remnant aren't in Jordan. Like,
I did the same thing from it, and then you see her at the front.
Yeah, she walks out from behind, and it's like, oh, okay, we've transitioned into present day. Nice, that was a nice trick.
That was clever.
Nice transition, but you see that she has gotten much darker because I don't think we realise yet what bus this is. Because it's everyone's sort of in silhouette. You don't really quite get you don't get a good look at them. You see the driver more than anyone else. But they force the driver off the bus, and then Meg comes on the bus and she pulls a pin out of a grenade, and I'm like, what, is she full on terrorist now? And she rolls the grenade down the bus, and someone locks the door. And it's around this part where you start to hear the sounds of who's on the bus, and it becomes quite clear it's children. Yeah. And she's walking away from the bus, and the bus is behind her out of focus, and it's a school bus, and she's looking behind, she smiles, and I'm like, is she just scaring them? Is that a fake grenade, or is it actually about to blow up?
Yeah, I think for me, I was like, it's got to be fake. She's walking really slowly, like she's not expecting an explosion. Doesn't seem like it. She's like, really casual. So like, it's got to be fake. And then when the scene cuts away before you see any explosion, I was like, it's got to be fake.
But you're not quite sure.
No, I'm like, maybe they just didn't want to show us blowing up a bus full of kids, which I'd understand them not wanting to show that.
Well, see, I thought that's why it went out of focus. I thought, oh, we'll see it blow up out of focus, and you don't actually, because by the time it went out of focus, you couldn't really make out anyone inside the bus. It could have been an empty bus for all we knew.
Yeah.
But like, I think that's what I was like. Oh, they went out of focus because they're actually going to blow it up, and then it just cut, and I'm like, okay. And we see her go to like the district head office, like of this region for the GR.
The Council of Elders.
The Council of Elders, at least for this section, because they mentioned like talking to other heads. Like they actually bring that up in the scene.
See, the way they did that was they said, have you been talking to other heads? And I was like, so I was taking the impression that she was the head of her branch and they were above all of the other heads, and she was conferring with other ones.
Oh, so you think these three are actually the head of the whole thing? Like
I think they're the head of the whole thing, and she's one of the heads of a branch.
Yeah, she basically spells out her actual extreme viewpoints of this, because she's like, well, yeah, we're making our signs for the Hero Day parade, and we've seen that in the first episode, we knew what that was. She's like, oh yeah, we're making our signs all week, and she sounds so sarcastic. She's basically the delinquent teenager who's sort of like saying everything they want to hear, but with that tinge behind it that says, no, I'm going to do the exact opposite of what you're telling me to.
Yeah.
But she's like, oh, like, no, why don't we do something extreme? Like, they're forgetting we're not working.
That's it. They're saying, oh, they're seeing us standing there, but they're just ignoring it. It's become normal. They're just not noticing it. But if I punch them in the face, they'll remember that.
Yeah, and they even bring up that she's trying to buy explosives. So again, it's planting those seeds, and it's like the whole episode you're thinking, oh, it's going that way. But the other thing they bring up, of course, is Tom. They're like, oh, you said you were going to take care of this, and now he's tugging their pain away. And she goes to see Tom at one of his like lecture, or almost sermon, almost.
Yeah, sermon's probably a good word for it.
And she comes in and he notices her and he keeps going and he's hugging people's pain away, and we're in this really intense close-up as he's hugging this other person, and then she leaves and then Meg comes into frame and he kind of goes through the spiel, he goes through his little routine of what he says, and she hugs him and it's very sort of cynical, and she whispers into his ear, I can do this for real, and then leaves, and it shakes him. And what I like about this is that this has been purely 100% Meg's episode until this point. But at this point, she actually she gives the episode to Tom. It transitions to him.
The hug is a transition.
Yeah, because then we stick with Tom, and he's like kind of drinking and smoking after everyone's left. He's clearly in a bad place. And Laurie comes in and she's like, "Oh, where were you? We had another meeting up across town, and we had people, and I had to give donations back." And he gets kind of upset. He gets kind of upset at the monetary kind of gain and the sort of it doesn't feel as genuine as he maybe thought it did. He feels like he's being used. He even brings that up, and he accuses her of like pimping him out, and like, oh, you want to feel better because your book failed, and then he really hits her on a hard spot because he's like, oh, you want to feel better because you left your whole family, which gets a reaction because she goes up and slaps him.
And you gotta remember when he was doing this, when he was working for Wayne, it was out of a belief. Like when he was going around all of season 1 and following what Wayne had told him to do, it wasn't because Wayne wasn't paying him to do it. It was he had this belief in Wayne, and what he was doing was right. So here, like being a fraud and taking the money is just it goes against who he was.
Yeah, and I'm sure he knew that Wayne was charging like absurd amounts.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Yeah, because Wayne was charging way more. Because this is just like it just looked like $10 bills and stuff that were just putting in the bag. Like, Wayne was charging like 500 or whatever it was. Like what did he charge Nora? There was a lot of money.
It was a lot, yeah.
But no, he gets upset and he storms out, and we see, okay, this is kind of the rift that sort of became between them. And he storms into one of the GR places, the same one that we've seen him in back in episode 3 was their episode, and he confronts the girl who whistled on him, or the whistleblower, I suppose, literally the whistleblower.
Yes, and very good.
Come on, that was too good not to use.
Exactly, it was low hanging fruit.
Low-hanging fruit sometimes tastes the best.
Gotta work for it.
Yeah, I still have to work for low-hanging fruit. Depends how tall the tree is.
Well, this was a very short tree.
Well, then I have to crouch, and my back's not what it used to be. It hurts a little bit.
For God's sake. Get on with it.
So he basically starts shouting and screaming for Meg, and like, you know, blow your whistle, bring Meg, and he starts throwing things around, and he's in a chaos. And Meg shows up. He's been beat up a little bit with some of the grunts, and she comes in, sits down, all kind of like I'm the boss kind of thing. She pulls out a chair and sits down, kind of legs just kind of open, and it's like, I actually thought she was making some sort of sexual point at first, but I actually just genuinely think it was no, I'm the boss, and like this is how I sit.
I'm almost surprised she didn't, turn the chair around and sit on it, leaning on the back of it.
Yeah,
that's the typical thing I think of in that moment.
And she questions why he's there. What does he want? And it's like, oh, you said you could take my pain away. And it's like, you know, I want to be a part of this. And because we even spoke about it in episode 3, does it seem like he's maybe actually kind of becoming someone who would be joining the GR, because he was saying these things, like the fight he had with Laurie before the ending of the episode, sounding like maybe he would want to actually join the GR for real.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to be a part of this. And she says, oh, you don't want to be a part of this. You just want your family. That's what you're looking for. And he brings up, so, oh, if I wanted my family, I just moved to Texas. And she's like, Texas? And the music kicks in. It was the same music, I think, at the start of the episode as well. The sort of percussion-y part of it comes in, and she starts like laughing. She's like, "We're in Texas." It's like, Miracle. It's like, and she's like, "No, it's called Jordan. Miracle's the park." And she basically recites what the tour guide said to her at the start of the episode.
It's just like she's got plans,
and she starts laughing because like, oh, that's where I'm heading, and I'm like,
isn't this convenient?
It is kind of. Do you know what I love is it does feel a little bit coincidental, but as she even because when she runs into Matt later in the episode, this comes up. It's like, oh, this is amazing. You came here. It's like, no, anywhere else would be a coincidence, but not here. This is not a coincidence. We're here because of this place. There's a reason. Yeah, and given like the flashback and how she hates this town, she hates that it's like faking that it can take your pain away, and that, you know, that's why they hate Tom to a point, because he's saying that it can take the pain away, and we want them to remember the pain. So it makes sense this would be our target if she wants to do something dramatic. Like,
yeah, she wants to shake it up. You know, that whole thing is, no, we're safe, we're fine. She wants to ruin that and make them feel the fear that everyone else does.
Yeah, she wants them to feel not safe anymore. Just basically the gist of it. So she takes him along. She's driving to Texas, and she's in the car with her, just across from her.
Yeah,
and They chat, they have a heart-to-heart, and thankfully Tom brought up the question that I was really hoping he'd ask.
Yep.
Because, as he even says, almost his exact words, is like, okay, I know why you poured gasoline on me, I know why you did this, I know why you did that. What I don't know, though, is why did you have sex with me? Because we were kind of confused.
We went through all that, and we were like, yeah, we get all that other stuff was to send a message to Laurie. And he said that as well.
And the best we came up with was, oh, she wants to show that she owns him. Because it was sexual assault. Like, he didn't... You know, it didn't resist much, but it was tied up. They didn't really have a say in it. Like, you know, I wouldn't call it consent. And like, so he naturally asked, like, why did you have sex with me? And she just brushes off the question, but then she's like, oh, there's a small bar. Let's go dancing. And it's like, okay, this is getting really weird. Like, if you'd have told me back in season 1, no, but there was going to be a scene with them at a bar, like dancing and kissing, like I'd be like, but they're going to meet. would be my first comment.
Yeah.
But sure enough, no, they're sitting down and drinking, and they bring up some family stuff. She brings up, or does she bring up her mum in this scene? Actually, I don't think she does. It's with Matt. She brings up Matt. No, but she's bringing up other stuff, and she's like, oh, what you're blonde. Your parents are both dark haired, and so, oh, you met my dad. Yeah, he's not my biological father, so on. And she brings up her father.
He did note that Kevin did actually adopt him.
Yeah, legally, yeah. They made a point of it, and she said that her. That's why I thought she did kind of mention her mum, but not that she died. Yeah. It was about her father and how he left a year later, or the adopted father left a year later.
Yeah.
And they end up, having this moment where they kiss, but again, it feels kind of like, look. There's feelings here, certainly from Tom's side, but you get this feeling that she is kind of manipulating him, that she's
playing a game. Yeah, and she's like, what? You're kind of going, what's her plan here? What's her end game?
This is not genuine emotion, and she takes him up dancing, and it's in the middle of the dance. She just whispers in his ear, "I wanted to get you pregnant."
Yeah,
and she just walks off, and he's left standing there, and I'm like, I don't know if that really answered the question, to be honest.
No, it was a strange choice of words, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. No, I think I've got it, though. I think the whole idea that she, what is pregnancy? It's sowing a seed, to put it into really sort of vague terms with the rest of the world. And I do think that was the point. It was to maybe give him this sense of attachment in a weird way. It was the fact that he's leaning in for the kiss, and he is kind of bewildered, and he's saying, because at one point she's like, "Oh, this is nice, isn't it?" He's like, "Yeah, it is pretty nice."
Yeah, it was almost like intentionally starting off Stockholm syndrome.
Kind of, yeah. It's just another way of indoctrination into a cult.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they get to this place. It's presumably near Jordan in Texas, and it's the Guilty Remnant. But it was really weirding me out because they're all wearing normal clothes, but they're still writing things in notepads. So it's like they're in disguise.
I don't like it.
They're undercover Guilty Remnant, which is really weird. But so they're there, and there's this guy who saw something in the barn. Like he saw something, and they're concerned, and like, oh well, after tomorrow when we do what we're going to do, because we're going to do it in the anniversary. It's going to be in the 14th. We're presumably we're 1 year exactly after the season 1
I think
premiere.
we are, yeah.
Yeah, at this point, it's like, oh, we're Guilty Remnant, and so they're going to do whatever they're going to do, and we're thinking at this point probably some sort of terrorist attack. That is what the episode really sort of led us to believe at this point, and there might still be an element of that. Like I still think that could be a thing,
right?
But so this guy who just stumbled on because he was hiking or whatever nearby, and he might have saw something in the barn, and like, well, we're going to do what we're doing tomorrow, so it won't matter after that, so we can just keep him locked up for a day, which is, still extreme, but
it was logical.
Yeah, it was logical, and it was a fairly humane approach to it,
It was like, yeah, we'll keep him for a day, we'll let him go, he'll tell the police, but, they're going to be after us anyway with whatever we do.
Yeah, and then for no reason whatsoever, other than to show force and to be vicious and vindictive on her part, which we've seen she's really grown into that role over the year. She's like, stone him. And he naturally is like, what does that mean? Because people don't talk about stoning each other these days. This is not
It's not a common occurrence, is it?
No. He's like, what does that mean? What does that mean, stone me? And then I do love, though, because so Tom obviously is distressed by this. He goes and speaks to Meg. He's like, okay, what am I doing here now? And she's like, no, you wanted to come here. You're here. And she just hands him a stone and says, make yourself useful. And I am so glad that Tom put the stone down, because it was going to be really hard to sympathise with him if he went and participated.
It would have been hard. Like, I buy that, he's kind of got this thing with Meg. There is this weird bond, and he's kind of going along with it because he doesn't really know what his place is.
He's aimless, yeah. Much like what a cult usually does, he sees purpose in Meg somehow.
Right, and I get that. But this would have been too far too soon. Yeah. If this had been like later in that journey, I can buy it.
Yeah,
but not now.
Because I feel like ultimately, at least I'm hoping that Tom's story is still not that dark. Like he gets redemptive perhaps before he goes over a line and comes back from the edge.
Hopefully.
But of course, Meg goes to the outskirts, where Matt is, and the shanty town outside of Jordan, and she's just there to have a watch. She goes up and looks at the bridge, and she's clearly imagining or fantasizing about what she's doing tomorrow. And Matt sees her. He's like, Meg? And of course she starts talking back to him, and he's like, you're talking? This is great! This is great news!
Yeah.
This is a victory! Excellent!
And you're like, oh, Matt, you poor optimistic bastard.
And she sort of plays it along. Yeah, I left the Guilty Remnant. I've done this, I've done that. And they sit down, and he pours her a tea or a coffee or whatever they're drinking. Maybe booze, I have no idea. Whatever he's got in those cups. Could be anything. And the conversation quickly takes a bit of a turn, though. She starts she says things again. It's in that very sort of like she's not saying outright what she means, but she's being confrontational and suggestive enough that it's clear that she has got another agenda in her mind.
Yeah.
And he quickly picks up in this, and he's like, I don't think you're being completely honest with me, and And he brings up, and this is a really good moment, he brings up the, because he's like, oh, it's the anniversary. He's like, no, it's tomorrow. I was like, no, today, I'm talking about your mother. Or, and he remembers this, and presumably he was involved, maybe, I mean, it depends which faith she was, but like, he might have been involved in burying her, or not burying her. We find out, of course, that she was shot into space. Let's not gloss over that.
But the service.
The service, yes.
Well, even if not, just the idea that he paid attention to the community, and when she was brought up, obviously he was talking about her at some point with those leaflets, and of course he remembers, because that's the person he is.
Yeah, and it's almost like she doesn't like to bring that up, because it's about the rest of the world, and is she just angry at the world for not letting her grieve? Like, is she just angry about that? Certainly it's the start of it, but is that still the core of it? Is that still what's just purely driving her? That she...
You have that bit where, she says, oh, people keep saying that she's lucky because she had a body to bury, or, do whatever with.
Shot into space.
Sure. In this case, yes. But the point is, she could go through the normal grieving process.
Yeah, but she couldn't really, because the very next day, everyone didn't even want to pay attention to her.
Yeah, who cares about going to this woman's funeral when half the people they know, there's people missing all over.
Funerals typically take place within a week of the death, give or take, right? That's pretty normal.
Yeah, within a week to two, I'd say.
Yeah, in those first 2 weeks from that departure, everyone's going to be in chaos, looking for people, not believing that it's actually happened.
They wouldn't have accepted yet that they've gone. There's that hope. Oh, they can return. There'll be all the helplines.
Hell, my wife just went into a coma.
Right.
or coma, whatever the technical term is, but that just happened to him. So even he's probably not in the mood to go and do a service. He probably did, knowing Matt.
I bet he did, because he's him. Yeah,
it's Matt. But even his mind's not all where focusing on what it normally would be in that situation. So it's just how much does she resent? Is that the cause of this? Is that
yeah? I think it's this idea that she kind of knows she can't blame people for reacting the way they did, because of course they would. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think she's less annoyed at people, but she's annoyed at the idea of it happening, the event in general, the departure as a whole.
Yeah, and she wants people to remember, because maybe she's never really quite getting over the fact that she couldn't grieve properly.
Yeah, it's like, well, if I can't forget it because it ruined it for me, I'm gonna make sure it ruins it for everyone else.
And of course, she leans in and is like, what have you been waiting for? All you people are out here. You could, it's right there. It's just over the bridge. Why aren't you in?
Yeah, there's hundreds of you. You could storm that.
What have you been waiting for? And I don't think there's been an ominous sentence in this show quite as much as, you've been waiting for me.
I know. I'm like,
I'm like, God damn it. What is she about to do? But no, good scene. But of course, he's legitimately worried about, obviously, everything there. But it comes back to their camp, the Guilty Remnant camp, the undercover camp, and everyone's more or less asleep. Tom gets up, and he's too curious. He has to know.
He can't help himself.
I was actually really tense during this scene, because I was like, oh, someone's going to catch him. Someone's going to catch him. The stoned the last guy who got a glimpse, Yeah. And he goes into this barn, wanders in, and he sees this trailer. Okay, something in the trailer, and obviously this is where we were talking about. Okay, bombs is the really obvious thing, so it's probably.
It feels like it could be bombs, because it would work for his moment, but it doesn't work as an end of an episode revealed to us.
Yeah, so it has to be something more. And there's a moment where he opens the door and light hits his face, and I'm like, oh my, is God in there? What's happening? The briefcase from Pulp Fiction is in the trailer. What's happening?
That is the trailer.
Yeah. It's the evolution of the arm. So, Twin Peaks reference for people who have been watching that. So I'm like, what's he looking at? What's he looking at? And you're waiting for it, because it lingers on his face for a long time. Like, I almost thought they were going to cut to the credits and not show us, the cheeky bastards.
Yeah, me too.
But it lingers on his face until we eventually get the reverse shot. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. Yeah. Evie.
It's his genius.
God damn it. Evie. You see the other two are kind of around her as well. They're smoking. She writes, something on... What's she write on the pad again? I can't even remember.
I can't remember. Because
it doesn't matter.
It wasn't...
He asks who it is, and she's like, it doesn't matter who I am.
Yeah. I was going to say, it wasn't important what she wrote, because it didn't matter.
Like, yeah, the point was she was writing, she wasn't speaking. Like, you get the gist, the point of this scene is perfectly clear. And so, it's like, man, they faked her disappearance and joined the Guilty Remnant. And again, you look back at that opening scene, or not the opening scene, but when she was saw it earlier, by the way, really smart that they let us see her again in this episode to remind us what she looks like, who she is. Remember, she's here. Remember that this is going on. Because we're not
just
really,
in case, yeah.
Because we're not really spoke about her disappearing in a while. I mean, we had a bit about the handprint scanner, back in like 2 episodes ago.
2 episodes ago.
But that wasn't even like a big part of the episode. So it's been a while since they've really talked about her disappearing. So no, it just made it clear. This is, remember Evie. Here she is, and sure enough, here she is at the end of the episode. But yeah, it seemed like she was starting to go down that path where, but unlike her dad, the way she's dealt with these feelings of this is all bullshit is that it's drove her to the Guilty Remnant, and it's like, and all I can think now is, well, what is Meg's plan here? Like, is she going to reveal this in some sort of grand way?
I don't know. I love the idea that obviously at the start when she was talking to Meg, it was, this idea that she doesn't believe in all this either. And, over the next 2.5, whatever, however long it was, years.
1 year.
Because was that 2 years since the disappearance?
Yeah, so it's 1 year till the start of the show, and then another year till now.
Yeah, so about a year and a half, 2 years. I don't know how long exactly. Till she disappeared. But, the idea that she got worse, she kind of got sick of this over time, and it got worse, and she wanted to make them realize it was all bullshit.
Yeah, and it puts you in perspective as well, because she's living with her brother, who's, religious and faithful, and has all these beliefs, and goes out and feeds people, and has all these ideas, and talks to his crazy grandpa about stuff, and so she's living in the house, but she's living with a mother who tries to make a wish with a bird in a box, and whether she knew about that or not is another question, but just this idea that this is her surroundings, and she's been driven to this, and it makes me wonder, what is she going to do with Evie and the girls, because we know they stone each other to death to make a point. That's been a thing in the past. Do they put does Evie let herself be stoned in front of the town to make a point?
So obviously they reminded us of that twice this episode.
Yeah, because we see this. Well, let's see it, but the stoning's happening to that guy, and earlier on in the episode, she's like, "Oh, we're worried about the authorities. We stone ourselves to death, but we're worried about the authorities coming." Yeah.
Well, like you say, in the same way that they reminded us of Evie in this episode at the start for that reveal, the stoning killed twice. It's the same reason, where I mentioned, the guy with the handprints. It was like they're kind of reminding us of that again, or it felt like that to me. So I think he might come into play.
Yeah, because that's happened before in this show, where they've reminded us of an idea, like an episode, or maybe either in the episode or just the episode before. They'll remind us of a thing that we've not heard about in a while because it's going to be relevant again soon.
Right.
It's good writing.
It is.
Even if it does feel a little bit choreographed, where we go, okay, you've given us enough of a hint now that I can see that coming up now.
Yeah, but at the same time, it comes up just about organically enough that I buy it. Yeah, they give a good reason for
it. Especially since if she does get stoned in front of the town, that scene is going to be no less emotional because we had the idea that might happen.
Right. But I don't know why stone her in front of the town. What effect does that have? Her disappearing was the effect of going, look, you aren't safe, because disappearances can happen here too. They can depart from here, your safety zone.
Yeah.
So what effect is showing it was a? If she goes, oh, it was all a lie, well then they are safe. They're still a miracle. They're still departure free.
Yeah, they're safe from that, but that doesn't mean they're safe in general.
No.
Because if they show the idea that no, one of yours became one of us, and especially if she ends up letting herself be killed in front of them, that was one of your people. You are not safe. Just because you didn't disappear doesn't mean you're not safe from the fear, from the anger, the hate, the sadness, all of that stuff. You're not safe from any of it.
No, definitely.
Yeah. So I can see that maybe being the point. That said, though, she still was clearly implying, Meg, that she was going to get everyone in. The idea that the security around the town will be irrelevant after tomorrow. Whether that means they're going to attack them violently.
Well, because they just won't. Why will they need security? Or the security on their side. Yeah.
Which unfortunately might be why a certain family has to move to another country next season, which I'm not happy about. But
so looking forward to that being right.
Because they can't live there anymore if it's if it's overrun with GR and crazy hippies.
I mean, I know I said this back at the start of the season, and we talked about John burnt down that house. And I mentioned, I was like, I can see that happen at the end of the season, but then it was like, but is that too similar to season 1 with the GR houses all burning down? But if it's her doing the burning in retaliation, people burnt down our houses, we can burn down yours.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be, specifically retaliation for the season 1 finale.
No, but just the idea in spirit from her mind at least.
Yeah, and you know what? Thematically, it would work if she wants to go in and just burn all her houses. She wants to ruin this town. She wants to take it away from them. You think you're safe here? It's almost like
I'll burn it to the ground just to prove that you're not safe.
In a weird way, it's almost like she is John. She's the extreme version of John, and she's going to come in and burn the entire town. Because whereas John just wants to burn the 1 or 2 houses of the people who are trying to play it up, she's going to come in and take the entire town from them, including John.
She's like, look, just because you don't believe in all of it, you still live here. You still go along with it. You still, you don't publicly disprove it and go and fight against it.
it almost makes John look completely sane by comparison, compared to her, where she wants to come in and just take away the whole thing.
Right, he's like child's play.
And I think the idea, of course, as well, is that this will be such a big shocking event that will be on the news, that it'll reignite the guilty remnant and the fear of them and what they mean, what they represent.
Yeah, and it's that I know for a while we were thinking John's kind of the villain of the season.
Yeah, I don't know anymore. Like
now it feels like, but Meg's here. What's she doing? I'm much more worried about what she's going to do than anything John could.
John's like a really layered and grey character who's kind of an ally, but it could go other way. Like I could see like him finding out about the handprint, which admittedly might be not as a big deal when it turns out that the girls just faked their disappearance. But does it make him not trust Kevin?
But do you think Kevin was involved?
Maybe we'll think that. I don't know. We know he wasn't, and we know that.
Well, we know he wasn't. But if he goes, hang on, they faked this, and your handprint was there. You should know what went on.
It depends how it goes down. It depends what order the events go in. Like,
yeah,
because like it may not even matter. They might already like be in a situation where they're already leaving town. They'll never see him again before he finds out. Like, I don't know.
Also it causes like. What when Patty said to him they just disappeared, was it this? Was she never real and it was just Kevin projecting his own fears?
Yeah, like she didn't actually know. She was just making a guess. Or
well that's it. There's two options. If she's real, did she just say that to get under his skin and drive him a bit crazier? Or if she wasn't real and she's in Kevin's head, the idea that he just projected his fears into that.
Arguably, it's a something in the negative, well not negative, but the she's not real column that's kinda not 100% proof, but certainly something that's proved her wrong in some way. Like you say, she could have been lying, but it's the first time that something she said's been like, nah, this is, outside of like when she intentionally starts laughing after she says something that she's lying about. Like the whole joke about get the cup from Egypt and come like that whole thing.
It could be a lie, and if it is, I believe that. I believe why she would lie and say that. I get it from a motivation point if she's real, but at the same time, it is a definitive that she was wrong.
And what does that do to Kevin if he finds out that they didn't actually disappear, that what Patty said was wrong?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, hang on, if she was wrong, she didn't know. Was she real? Is she real? Depends if she's still seeing her for some reason.
And if he ever even finds out, maybe this is just something for us. It may not be something that he ever.
It might well be.
So who knows? But then again, it seems pretty far fetched that he won't find out the girls aren't.
No, again, like you say, they're staging an event. They're going to do this publicly. They're going to reveal them because otherwise, why keep them around?
They have set so much up in this episode for the next one, and then we've still not even got to like what happens to Kevin after he wakes up out the ground.
Yeah, forget that. I'm way more interested in this.
No, this was a good plot episode. I will say I don't love it as much as the last couple because I think. Because Meg and Tom, I'm not as connected to those characters as I am Kevin and Nora, and even Patty at this point. They don't have the same emotional resonance as those characters do.
I agree. I think also it has to, because it's covering so much time. I mean, even ignoring the two scenes, that were before the show started.
Yeah.
Like, just it's covering so much of the season up to now, like where it feels like with the Kevin and the rest of the family, we've progressed in a much more natural pace. Where here it feels accelerated.
It's well done. There's a lot of really great moments, and the ending, of course, was a great reveal.
Fantastic.
But definitely, I don't think it emotionally, because that scene in the well last episode was like such a fantastically emotional scene. Like I was so like captivated by that. Whereas this was a lot of good plot set up and a lot of good things like that, but not as
didn't have quite the character hits that sometimes the show does.
Yeah, and I think it's partly because both Tom and Meg are intentionally hard to read because they're going through these different things.
Yeah, and Meg, she intentionally plays up being vague.
Yeah,
that's part of her thing.
Yeah, but solid certainly. So this whole time they did fake their disappearance, which again we spoke about a lot and said we were leaning towards that because of everything Nora was talking about with all these faked disappearances and stuff. So now it'll be interesting to see the reactions to this and how does John react to.
I just really want to know what their plan is. How do they play this?
I know we said this a lot last season though. It's like, okay, we know we've got all these bodies, but what are they going to do with them? And in a weird way, it almost didn't happen on camera because they told us so much last season about this plan with the bodies that they didn't need to.
Yeah.
but we were still predicting it, and then we did see the one moment with Nora where she woke up and like they were sitting there in the, and
that was enough to know what they'd done.
We got a little montage of some other characters reacting to things, but it wasn't a big part of the episode. Is the same way. Yeah,
this time they've given us hints, but not enough to tell us definitively what's going to happen.
Yeah, we're going to be along with the other characters for the shock of this one, I think. So
yeah.
But there you go. That has been episode 9 of season 2 of The Leftovers. We got one left of this season, so hopefully we'll get that pretty soon. We're starting to pick up the pace a little bit. So thank you very much for watching. Let us know what you think of this episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support us, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that over there. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. We'll see you next time for the season finale. Goodbye.